There is a kind of woman people can't stop staring at, even when she isn't doing anything at all. She lives alone. She has no boyfriend, no husband, no one waiting for her at the end of the day. And strangest of all to the people watching her, she isn't trying to change that. She isn't scrolling through dating apps at midnight. She isn't crying about it to her friends over drinks. She's just living, calm, steady, whole. Naturally, the world doesn't know what to do with her, so it starts guessing. Someone must have broken her heart. Someone must have hurt her so badly she gave up on love. Or maybe she just couldn't find anyone who wanted her. People need a reason, because the idea that a woman might simply choose this life is too uncomfortable to sit with. It's easier to pity her than to consider that she might actually know something they don't. But her life was never a tragedy. It was a decision. Somewhere along the way, she looked at everything she'd been told about what a woman's life should look like, and she quietly set it down. She stopped believing that she was one half of something, forever incomplete until a man showed up to finish the equation. She stopped believing that an apartment without a husband in it was just four walls and silence. What she built instead is not an absence, it's a life. A full one. From the moment girls are old enough to understand stories, they are handed the same one over and over. Find your other half. Wait for your person. A house isn't a home until there's someone else in it. So when a grown woman finally puts that story down and says, out loud or just to herself, I don't need this to be happy, it isn't a small thing. It's an exit from a path she was walking her entire life without ever choosing it. And walking away from a path that deep doesn't come with applause. Nobody throws her a party for it. Instead, she gets the sideways glances at family gatherings, the aunt who asks when she's finally going to settle down, the friend who says in that concerned tone, are you doing okay? She is doing more than okay. She has simply stopped needing anyone's permission to know that. People assume a woman like this must be cold, distant, maybe even a little broken inside. It's one of the laziest assumptions anyone makes about her, and it's completely wrong. She isn't cold, she's tired. She's tired in the specific way that comes from years of giving everything she had to people who never gave it back. She knows what it feels like to carry the entire emotional weight of a relationship by herself, to be the one who remembers, who plans, who checks in, who forgives, while getting nothing close to that same effort in return. She has been drained before. She has been left feeling invisible while standing right next to someone. So she made a decision. Her energy would no longer be handed out for free to anyone who simply showed up and asked for it. She didn't shut the door on love. She just stopped leaving it wide open for anyone to walk through. Here's the truth that makes people so uneasy around her. A woman who doesn't need a relationship to feel complete is one of the hardest people to control. Our culture runs, quietly but constantly, on the idea that people need each other in order to be whole, that being alone is a problem waiting to be solved. When a woman stands outside that idea and says, I am already enough, she isn't just living differently, she's proving the whole premise wrong. And that unsettles people, because you cannot manage someone who isn't afraid of her own company. You cannot offer to rescue someone who was never drowning. A lot of men are taught, without ever being told directly, to look for a woman who needs something from them. Protection, money, emotional steadiness. When they meet a woman who already has all of that for herself, they don't quite know what role is left for them to play. It can feel like a blow to a part of their identity that was built around being needed. And for some women watching her, it stirs something too. Looking at her can feel like looking into a mirror that shows exactly how much of their own life is built on fear of being alone rather than love for the person they're with. She never has to say a single word to bring that question to the surface. Her life just does it for her. This kind of wholeness isn't the tidy, perfect circle kind people imagine. It's closer to a mountain, not flashy, not needing to prove anything, just standing there, solid, unmoved by whoever walks past it. She has come to understand that the most important relationship in her life is the one she has with herself. the quiet conversation that happens in her own home between her mind and her heart. She isn't pausing her life until someone else arrives to start it with her. She's already living it, right now, today. Step into her home, and the first thing that hits you is what's missing. No noise, no clutter of other people's opinions and expectations. Just quiet. To someone who's never learned to sit still with themselves, that quiet can look like loneliness. But it isn't. It's a kind of rest most people never let themselves have. Most people fill their lives with noise on purpose. Background television, endless scrolling, company that doesn't even really fit. Because the moment things go quiet, their own thoughts get loud, and that's terrifying. She stopped running from that a while ago. Her home became the one place she doesn't have to perform for anyone, doesn't have to explain her choices, doesn't have to manage somebody else's mood. Of course, the world still has its labels ready for her. Picky, too independent, hard to reach. But those words say more about the person using them than about her. When people meet someone who is genuinely comfortable being alone, it forces them to confront their own fear of the same thing. So they assume she must have built walls to keep everyone out. What they don't understand is that she didn't build those walls to shut people out. She built them to protect the peace she fought hard to find. She has already faced the things most people spend a lifetime avoiding. Old wounds from childhood, patterns of chasing people who couldn't love her the way she needed, the exhausting habit of settling for scraps of affection and calling it enough. Her solitude isn't an open wound. It's proof that the wound finally closed. None of this makes her antisocial. It makes her mature in a way that can feel almost intimidating to people who haven't done that work themselves. To someone still caught up in the noise of dating and chasing, her calm can look like giving up. In reality, she just grew past needing any of that. Real maturity asks for honesty and presence, and that's a hard thing for a lot of people to offer. She's no longer drawn in by smooth talkers or the kind of romance that looks perfect in photos and feels empty in real life. She's learned to tell the difference between real connection and the anxious spark that just imitates it. She isn't looking for someone to save her, and she has zero interest in taking on someone as a project to fix. She traded the frantic search for a partner for something steadier, the quiet strength of simply being with herself. She has let go of the old story that says a person is only half of something until they find their match. She was never a half. She has always been whole. What she's actually looking for now is rarer than romance. It's reciprocity. Two people who are already grounded, already whole, already aware of their own flaws, choosing to build something together instead of leaning on each other to survive. Until she finds a connection like that, she's genuinely content staying exactly where she is. She isn't waiting for her life to begin. She's already living the one she built, and anything added to it now has to match the peace she worked so hard to create. Looking at her, you're not just seeing a woman who happens to be single. You're seeing someone who chose to live according to what actually matters to her instead of following a script handed down by everyone else. Most people move through life checking boxes: marriage, partnership, social approval, just to prove to the world they exist. She opted out of that performance entirely. She's living proof of something people are often told is impossible, that real happiness doesn't need a witness. She doesn't need a partner to narrate her life for it to matter, and she doesn't need her weekends validated by anyone watching from the outside. Her joy isn't a show, it's private, and it belongs only to her. When people call her picky, she doesn't argue. She just smiles, because she knows something they haven't figured out yet. What looks like pickiness to them is really just her refusing to accept less than the basics: honesty, consistency, respect. She stopped negotiating for those things a long time ago. If they aren't already on the table, she doesn't even bother sitting down. That kind of clarity does something else, too. It acts like a mirror for everyone she comes across. People who are used to gaining power by making others feel like they need rescuing find that their usual tricks simply don't land on her. People still caught in the exhausting cycle of chasing approval sometimes feel judged around her, not because she's judging them, but because her freedom quietly highlights the chains they're still wearing. She isn't trying to prove anything or start any arguments. She's just living her life. But in a world that still expects women to be small, agreeable, and easy to reach, simply existing on her own terms becomes its own kind of statement. She has stopped shaping her life around pleasing other people or fitting into whatever mold was handed to her. She lives fully, on her own terms, and that makes her hard to predict, hard to manage, and completely free. That freedom is exactly what raised her standard for love. If she's still single today, it isn't because nobody wants her or because she got left behind somewhere. It's a choice she renews every single day. Every time she turns down a connection that isn't good enough, that's an act of self-respect, not rejection. She has come to understand something most people never fully accept, that being alone is far better than being lonely inside a relationship. She's been in that kind of relationship before, sitting right next to someone and still feeling 1,000 miles away. She's done chasing connection that only exists on the surface. Her path hasn't been perfectly smooth. There are still nights when she misses having someone there, moments when she wishes for a familiar voice or a hand to hold. But even in those moments, she doesn't abandon herself just to avoid being alone. She refuses to share her bed with someone just to fill the space next to her. The love she's open to now isn't about being rescued. She doesn't need a partner to save her from her own life, because she genuinely likes the life she's built. She isn't hoping someone will show up and fill in her missing pieces, because she doesn't believe she has any. When love does eventually arrive, it won't feel like finding a missing puzzle piece. It will feel like a celebration. Two complete people deciding their separate lives are better shared than kept apart. That kind of love doesn't come to complete her. It comes to walk alongside her. It's the difference between needing a crutch to stand and finding someone who can actually match your pace. She's waiting for an equal, someone who has done their own inner work, who understands that real love is about growing together, not holding on out of fear. And maybe this isn't really a story about a stranger at all. Maybe it's a mirror for something in you that's been waiting quietly for permission to come forward. If any of this feels heavy in your chest, it might be because you're tired too. Tired of shrinking yourself to fit into relationships, jobs, or expectations that were always too small for who you actually are. Maybe you've been playing a role just to keep the peace, and some part of you is finally asking to breathe freely again. You don't have to figure everything out today, but you can start somewhere small, not by searching for someone to complete you, but by getting to know your own company again, by finding some peace in your own silence, by deciding what you actually deserve instead of what you've settled for. Being whole was never something you needed someone else to give you. It's something you build, quietly, on your own, starting right where you are.